What is something you never realized was optional until you saw someone simply not do it? Having an opinion about everything. When I heard someone say, "I do not know enough about the subject to comment on it," I realized that staying quiet is also an option. Getting worked up over everything. I do not mean that people should become apathetic, but when I was growing up, my parents panicked over every tiny inconvenience. A trip to the store, making a doctor's appointment, a missing letter, a dropped fork, or spilled milk could become a major crisis. As I got older and spent time around other people, I realized that this was not normal. The world does not end because you burned a pizza or let the water boil away while cooking pasta. The driver who cut you off did not ruin your entire day, and the employee checking your ID is not a villain. You can simply choose not to react to things like that, and life becomes much easier. One moment that really stayed with me happened when a guy was talking complete nonsense. Instead of arguing with him, the other person simply stood up and walked away without saying a word. Working with the public taught me not to argue with stupidity. When someone confidently tells me something that I am 90% sure is false, I often respond with, "Interesting. I did not know that." You can say, "Thank you for the invitation, but we will not be able to make it." That is all. You do not have to provide a detailed explanation. Realizing that you do not owe anyone a reason is incredibly freeing. I still sometimes feel tempted to fill the silence with an awkward excuse. Usually, the other person does not care why you cannot come. They only wanted a yes or no. You do not have to open the door just because someone rings the bell. This was a huge realization for me. I was talking to a neighbor once, and she mentioned that our area had recently been flooded with pushy, door-to-door salespeople. I told her that several people had already come to my house offering internet plans, unknown phone services, and pest control. She looked at me as if I had grown a horn and asked why I opened the door to strangers in the first place. That made me realize how deeply we are conditioned to answer every doorbell. Some of those people could even be dangerous. I stopped doing it. Looking back, it is strange that I used to open the door for people I was not expecting. Using the fancy dishes, beautiful cups, expensive plates, and everything else that is normally kept in a cabinet. My mother was shocked when I made her tea using the porcelain set from the cupboard. If not now, when? Why should we not use the things we already own? I used to think the same way your mother did. More than 30 years ago, someone gave my newborn daughter an incredibly beautiful and expensive outfit. I never put it on her because I thought it was too luxurious. I did not want her to drool on it or stain it. In the end, it was never used at all. The person who bought it wasted their money, and it took up space in my closet. Now I realize that I should have let her wear it until it fell apart. The more expensive something is, the more often you should use it, so that you actually receive value from it, unless it is a painting or another object meant purely for display. I have an excellent ironing hack. Do not buy clothes that need to be ironed. I own 2 suits, one dark gray 3-piece suit, and one light gray 2-piece suit. I also have a pair of khaki pants and 2 shirts that the local dry cleaner pressed and starched. They hang in the closet with a few ties and the other essentials. Everything else is business casual at most. If an item comes out of the dryer and cannot hang without developing wrinkles, it does not become part of my regular wardrobe. I do not even own an iron or a steamer. Do not call me lazy. I spent 20 years in the Navy. I ironed uniforms, pressed sharp creases, polished boots, shaped caps, and tucked pant legs neatly into combat boots. I did all of that for 2 full decades. I have already completed my lifelong obligation to prove that I can maintain complicated clothing. I am done. For me, it was realizing that I did not have to sit through meetings where I was not needed. When I was an intern, I once complained to my manager that one team's meetings went on forever and constantly drifted into irrelevant details. He replied, "Then just leave." That completely changed the way I thought about workplace meetings. Of course, you have to understand the culture of your company, and I would recommend learning how your manager feels about it first. But most of the time, you can politely say, "It looks like you no longer need me for the rest of this discussion. May I go work on the project?" Or, "I need to return to an urgent task. Is there anything else that requires my input?" Then I leave calmly and professionally. I always finish my part of the work. and this has never damaged my reputation or caused problems with management. Do not let yourself become trapped in a meeting for no reason. For context, I now have about 7 years of experience. I am no longer an intern who cannot read social cues. When I saw someone refuse to participate in meaningless small talk, I realized that silence does not have to be filled. I also watched friends calmly say, "I am too tired to go," without feeling guilty. That taught me that I could respect my own energy without explaining every decision. At my first job, I exhausted myself. I stayed late, answered emails at 10 at night, and constantly did more than required. I believed that this was how good employees were supposed to behave. Then I noticed a senior specialist on our team who was respected and extremely competent. He logged off at 4:59 every single day. One day, a manager tried to give him work for the weekend. He looked at the manager calmly and said, "No, I will not be doing that. See you Monday." My jaw dropped, and the world did not end. He was not fired. He had simply created boundaries and consistently defended them. That changed my life. Answering questions. The fact that someone asks you a question does not mean you are required to answer it. The same applies to emails. I used to be a walking encyclopedia at work. Now I forward an email without hesitation when it should have been sent to someone else. I grew up in a Mormon family where children are normally baptized at the age of 8. After the ceremony, the church creates a personal membership record that can remain there permanently. Some people have even needed lawyers to have their records removed after leaving the church. It is basically a compulsory practice presented as a personal choice. One girl I knew decided not to be baptized at 8, and the rest of us children in the group were shocked. Apparently, you could simply say no and not burst into flames. Looking back, I am proud of her. I am no longer Mormon. I was about 15 when I realized that I never had to start smoking. Nobody directly forced me, but every adult around me smoked and talked about it as if it were inevitable. Their only advice was not to start too young. Finishing every book you start. Abandoning a book you dislike is the highest level of adulthood. The same applies to television shows, movies, video games, and everything else. When you stop enjoying something or become bored, you can simply stop. You do not have to attend every family holiday. You can create your own traditions. You also do not have to maintain contact with relatives, especially when they repeatedly violate your boundaries. Putting on makeup just to run to the store. A few days ago, I went without makeup, and nothing terrible happened. I once read a line in an interview with a makeup artist that stayed with me for years. Wear makeup when you genuinely want to, not because you feel that you have to. Quitting things. People always praised me for being persistent, but the truth was that I did not realize quitting was even an option. Clicking no when a website asks you to accept cookies. I always accepted them because I thought the page would not work otherwise. Then I watched a friend reject the cookies, and the website still worked. I was amazed. Understanding that I am not responsible for other people's emotions. I am responsible for behaving decently, respectfully, lovingly, and honestly. However, how other people feel about my actions is their responsibility. They have to manage their own emotions, not me. The other side of that realization is that my emotions are also my responsibility. I cannot make other people responsible for managing them. Wearing a bra every time I leave the house. Saying no. It really is a complete sentence, and it does not require an explanation afterward. At a crowded supermarket, I choose the first reasonable checkout line and stay there instead of jumping between lines trying to find the fastest one. In the car, I turn on the heat and drive with the window open because I enjoy the combination of warmth and fresh air. I do not worry about wasting a little heat. I do not finish food when I am no longer hungry, especially when I cannot save it or know I will not want it later. My body is not a trash can. I also do not save clothes for special occasions. Why should I wear my best things less often than everything else? Cutting off toxic friends, and especially toxic relatives. What do you mean you are not inviting your awful Uncle Frank to Thanksgiving? Exactly that. It feels wonderful. Acting like a proper adult. I am almost 50, And I play video games every day. I play Fortnite. Sometimes I climb the stairs on all fours like a dog. Sometimes I buy myself a Happy Meal because the toy looks fun. I do not care what anyone thinks. You decide what being an adult means for you. Saying please when I am not actually asking for anything. Constantly apologizing for myself. Cooking dinner every night. A bowl of cereal, cheese and crackers, or peanut butter with fruit is still a perfectly acceptable meal. Answering the phone. A friend was surprised that I often rejected calls. I told her, having my phone number does not give someone unlimited access to me whenever they want. Responding immediately to every text message, email, or voice message. Unless something is urgent, I will respond when it is convenient for me. Taking a sick day. I thought it was practically forbidden, and that I would be punished forever if I ever did it. I believed I had to work through the flu, migraines, food poisoning, or even while sitting on the toilet. A couple of weeks ago, I caught a bad cold and took one shift off. I still have my job, and nobody has even mentioned it. I have a neighbor who is around 60. Every morning, he checks the mail wearing a robe, boxer shorts, and slippers. When my daughter was 3, she once grabbed an entire birthday cake, pushed her face into it, made a satisfied humming sound, and started eating. That level of not caring is what I aspire to achieve. Entertaining toxic relatives. I grew up in a family with strong family values, and I still value family. But eventually, I realized that I was allowed to stay away from people who treated me badly, even when we were related. It was incredibly freeing, and it also improved my mental health. Everything in life is optional. Just remember that your actions affect other people and accept the consequences of what you say and do. Everything else is your choice. Thank you very much for watching. In the comments below, tell us what you never realized was optional until you saw someone simply not do it. Do not forget to watch our other videos. Hugs. Bye, and see you tomorrow.